All right, y'all, in this video, we're going over fantasy points per game at the running back position. Now, I know all the time some people may want to draft by names, but we don't do that here. We need to look at the analytics and see what it's telling us to best provide us with the best season possible. We're going over last year's rankings at the running back position and seeing who was able to produce for you week in and week out. We're going over everything running back style, fantasy points per game. Let's get it. All right, we're going to start here at number 12 here, and we're going to talk about Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones averaged 12.9 fantasy points per game last season, and I don't think it's going to get any easier for him this season. I mean, we're going to be looking at Jordan Love at the quarterback position. Aaron Rodgers should be moving on, most likely to the Jets. But Aaron Jones, I mean, he had some really good games last season. I mean, he had one game over 30 points, a couple in the 20s as well, but there was way too many times he scored under 10 points in a game, and I think that's only going to get worse for him. Aaron Jones really doesn't look like the bright sides out there for him. He's probably going to spend the season here and probably going to move on, let A.J. Dillon be the starter there, but Aaron Jones getting a little bit older, averaging 12.9 points in 2022, and I would fair to say in this year right here in 2023, I just don't see Aaron Jones being able to put up the same amount of fantasy points as he did last year. I think they're going to be stacking the box quite a bit against Aaron Jones. They're not going to be able to really delve back and get into the safeties and the corners or be playing backwards. Everybody's going to be playing up. Everybody's going to be looking for Aaron Jones to get the ball. I just don't think Jordan Love has the talent to get it done, to take the pressure off of Aaron Jones. So he did come in at number 12, but I do not see him being in the top 12 next year. Let's go ahead and move on to number 11. We're going to talk about Jamaal Williams. Jamaal Williams coming in at 12.9 points. Fantasy points per game last season with the Lions. He was absolutely outstanding for the Lions, especially early on in the season. Running a couple times for over 20 points per game. Had a 15-point game in week 1 against New Orleans, but now he is with New Orleans. Jamaal Williams, I do see him to probably get more than 12.9 points, especially if you see Alvin Kamara facing a 5, 6, 7 game suspension due to his off-the-field troubles. Jamaal Williams is going to have every opportunity to succeed in New Orleans, and he should be able to improve on that 12.9 points he averaged in 2022. The next guy we're going to go in at number 10 here in tier 3. We're going to talk about James Conner. Conner had 13.6 points per game last season with the Arizona Cardinals, and he started out the season not too well. He really started to salvage it later on in the season. He only scored over 10 points once in the first 9 weeks, and that include 3 games that he ended up missing just due to injury. So towards the end of the season, he started giving out about 3 20-point games, which really salvaged where he was. But that just kind of tells you where the fantasy points per game at the running back position is. There's a couple of elite options, and then after that, it kind of falls off of a cliff. But James Conner at 13.6 points per game, not somebody you really want to go out there and target, not somebody you're really excited about having on your fantasy football team. But he does come in as the 10th ranked running back in fantasy points per game in 2022. Let's move over here to number 9. We're going to talk about Joe Mixon. Mixon comes in at 14.0 points per game last season. Did really well with the Bengals. I don't see him being on the Bengals this year. I do think that the Bengals will end up moving on from Mixon. They don't want to pay him, and he's battling yet another off-the-field type of issue. He had some issues in the draft when he was coming out into the NFL, and now he's having another issue now. It's just not really worth any of the time the Bengals want to put into that. But he did average 14 points per game and landed him at number 9 among the running backs. So move on to the last running back in tier 3 at number 8. We're going to talk about Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard coming in at 14.3 fantasy points per game, playing behind Ezekiel Elliott, who is now no longer with the team. Tony Pollard moves into the number 1 running back role, and we're going to probably see one of two things. Either Tony Pollard is going to be the go-to guy, or he's going to be in a time split share with someone else. We have to wait and see what kind of running back Tony Pollard can be. Can he be the workhorse kind of guy? He's got all the talent in the world. He does really, really well for the Dallas Cowboys offense, who should be improved with they add in Brandon Cooks on the outside. So Tony Pollard could be a big, vital piece for the Cowboys. He should look to improve on that 14.3 points per game that he had last year, now that he is the bona fide number 1 running back for the Dallas Cowboys. Let's move on to the tier 2 now, and at number 7, we're going to go over Breece Hall. Breece Hall at 15.1 points per game, and he's pretty good. I mean, this guy can be the #1 running back in the NFL. He just needs to be able to come back from his ACL injury and prove that he can be this type of guy. I mean, he scored some points. He was kind of the bell cow guy for this offense. He did score over 20 points one time in week 5 last season. Ended up getting hurt, and from week 8 on, he did not play. So this season, coming back in here, hopefully he's fresh. It looks like he will be ready for the start of the regular season. So we're going to have to wait and see how Breece Hall plays. And if they do end up getting Aaron Rodgers, that's only going to bode well for Breece Hall. Should be able to take a lot of pressure out of the box for him, giving him a lot more space and a lot more running room to be able to work. So let's move on to another tier 2 running back that we have here at number 6. We're going to talk about Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb ended up with 15.8 fantasy points per game last season, which was pretty good. I mean, we did have Kareem Hunt. He should be gone now. So looks like Nick Chubb might even be able to take a little bit more of a workload, and he should be able to improve on that 15.8 points per game in 2023. That's what I expect from him. I think the Browns as a whole will be a better team. They do have a good defense, which should give more opportunities for Nick Chubb to rack up those fantasy points for your team. Let's go over to the number 5 running back here, and we're going to talk about Saquon Barkley. He had one of those rejuvenation type of seasons last season. He broke out at week 1, 30 points. We knew he was going to be something special. He ran for over 20 points multiple times. It was just those times he ran for 4 points, 5 points, and 6 points in weeks 11, weeks 14, and week 17, which really lowered his average per game to 16.0, but he's electric, you know. He's based on volume. They gave him tons of work last season. He didn't really break off any big plays, but he was just handed the ball over and over and over. There is no wide receivers there to really take advantage of. So if they do reload either in the draft or maybe add a couple pieces here or there at the wide receiver position, Saquon should not have to have that many carries in 2023, but we're looking for him to be able to break out a couple of runs to hopefully improve on the 16.0 points per game that he's averaging as of right now. But we're going to have to wait and see. I know a lot of people are off of Saquon Barkley. A lot of people love Saquon Barkley. It's kind of a 50-50 thing, but we'll see how ADP starts to pan out a little bit and see where Barkley goes to see if you can steal Barkley as a value in your drafts. Now we're into the top 4 here. We're still in tier 2 though. Let's talk about the number 4 running back, and that's going to be Josh Jacobs. He comes in at 17.8 fantasy points per game. Last season, he kind of had a breakout season this year. Everybody kind of wrote off Josh Jacobs, thought he was going to be yet another fail, but ended up proving everybody wrong, including the Raiders. The Raiders do like this guy. They want him back on the team, and now that they don't have Derek Carr anymore, they might depend on Josh Jacobs quite a bit here. Jimmy Garoppolo comes into town, should be throwing to Devontae Adams early and often, but Josh Jacobs should be able to tote this bell everywhere. You know, there shouldn't have another running back really that's vying for any type of touches behind him, so he is the bell cow for this offense. I see him getting probably around the same amount of points this year than he did last year. The 17 to 18 points per game is probably what you can expect if you end up drafting Josh Jacobs to your team. Now, third guy we're going to talk about here, and that's going to be Derrick Henry. This guy has been a hoss for years and years. You know what you're getting out of this guy, 20 plus carries a game, and he ends up doing really well. If it wasn't for the couple of games he either had 4, 7, or a couple times ran for 8 points. Other than that, I mean, he's over 20 points a game for most of the games that he plays in. He's fun to watch. He's fun to have on your team. He is getting a little bit older, so we'll see if he can kind of maintain the running style that he does, but he loves running people, stiff arming people, and just trucking everybody all the way up to the end zone. So he did come at number 3 for us at 17.9 points in 2022. Now let's go over to tier 1 now, talk about the second ranked running back for fantasy points per game. That's going to be Christian McCaffrey at 18.5 points per game. We know we're getting out of Christian McCaffrey year in and year out. He produces as long as he can stay healthy. I know a lot of people kind of knocked him a little bit on their rankings due to just the possibility of the injury prone label that Christian McCaffrey does carry, but if he stays healthy all season, he is bona fide probably the number 1 running back in the NFL, or I would say at least worst case scenario top 3 running back. And in this case, he had fantasy points per game number 2, and that that leads us to the number 1 guy who had the most fantasy points per game in 2022, and that is Austin Ekeler at 18.8 fantasy points per game. Austin Ekeler is he's just the epitome of consistency. Ran for 30 points in a game 3 times last season, multiple times for over 20 points per game. So this is somebody that's really nice to have in your team in redraft leagues. I know Dynasty leagues probably a time to sell Austin Ekeler. We're not sure if he's going to be on the team as of next year, just based on him wanting to leave in a trade. I think he'll be there in 2023, but 2024, we could probably be looking at another running back. There's a possibility, a lot of rumors out there that Bijan Robinson might end up landing with the Chargers, and I'm sure he'll be taking over for Ekeler if that does happen. But let's go ahead and go over a review of what we have for the top 12 running backs in 2022 as far as fantasy points per game. We start with Austin Ekeler, then Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, and Nick Chubb. Then we're going with Breece Hall, Tony Pollard, Joe Mixon, James Conner, Jamal Williams, and Aaron Jones. As always, thank you for watching the video as we continue to pump out more and more content to help you just dominate your leagues, making sure we're delivering on the best content we possibly can to help prepare you, to help get you ready in this off season, so that way you can go into the drafts knowing who you're going to be taking week in and week out, getting you ready to dominate. Doesn't matter how many leagues you're in, this channel is going to be for you. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, would really help me out. Hit the like button and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about these rankings and these fantasy points per game, what we're going over. But I can't wait to see you guys on the next video. We'll see you guys next time.